welcome home. This is the Irish Roots Cafe, where every day's a holiday, and there's always room for one more. Come right this way, have a seat with me today in the corner booth, celebrating episode number 123 of the Irish Genealogy and History Show here. This is the Irish Roots Cafe. Sweeney, clear that floor. Katie, bar the door. Molly, put on another pot of Irish coffee. Bring out the Irish dancers. It's time we get this show on the road. Another full house today, not a chair to spare. I'm Mike OLaughlin, your host, and you can reach me on my webpage at irishroots.com. And be sure to check out the written show notes on the blog. And we've got some news about that blog, too. Irish Central is getting a blog from us now. It's going to be regular, and we've got to work out some details on just how I'm going to coordinate it all. But it's there starting, it was last week was the first entry I actually made. So be sure to check that out, too. Hey, and remember, phone 816-256-3360 to leave your comments on my recorder. Try it, you'll like it. Among today's topics, Duffy is the Irish name of the day. Donegal is the county of the week. Duffys Circus is the video pick. Dublin, Ohio Festival and Academy are over, and what a time that was. How to trace your Irish ancestors, part 1. Searching McNulty, Mahon, and Warburton. Irish art festivals and musicals in the news and notes. Hey, how about the notes this week? Well, hey, we've got so many notes, I better cut them down. I could do the whole show just on what's been happening around here. For some reason, it got very busy the last couple of weeks, and it looks like it's going to stay on that course. The Dublin Festival is now over, and we've got to say thanks to all of you who stopped by the genealogy tent to say hello there. It's always a pleasure to hear from some real folks who are listening. Hey, you know what? There's too many people to remember, but I real quick remember the Donahue family of Sneem that was being traced, and 2 separate Bodkin families. And a Bodkin, that can also stand for a short knife or spear from Roman era. And they usually say Galway, but you never know. And hey, we met that proud Cuban Irishman with O'Brien and several other Irish lines. He's become a friend over the years after first starting to look at his family tree. And hey, we even got a gift of some Cuban music on a CD. So that's another special treat we didn't expect. Thank you very much. Hey, the weather was the best ever, and the crowd was great. My compliments to the city of Dublin. Hey, number 2, just before that festival, they have the Academy, and I took the great Sean No song from Niamh Parsons at the Dublin Irish Academy, and there were 4 of us all together in the class, and the others were all experienced singers, and they graciously allowed me to stay in the class despite my obvious beginner status. Now, there's nothing wrong with being in a class with 4 beautiful and charming female singers either, is there? Hey, but you know what? This academy is one of the best kept secrets out there, and that usually doesn't happen, so we've got to turn that around. The academy there in Dublin each year is, I asked 20 people about it, some of them vendors, some of them visitors to the tent, some of them musicians, and 15 of them had never heard of it, and it's been going on there for several years. Even our supervisor at the tent, he didn't know about it. And he said, well, gosh, I might have gone if I had known. So there's got to be some different PR avenues traced. And one of my pieces of advice, and of course that advice is always free, start with a standalone website page for registration where you can just go in on there on a web and click it and register for your class right on the spot. Right now it's a little more complicated. You can do it, but I think that could scare off a lot of people who just don't want any confusion at all. So that's my thought for the day on that. Hey, these classes are great. I've taken the language, the boron, and now the Sean No song classes, and it's really a great lifetime opportunity, folks. These people are international in scope. And, next year I'm going to try to get a group to sign up just by making a lot of announcements here and getting folks to go. So remember that, and remind me if I forget, would you? Hey, number 3, we were also invited to the Charlotte, North Carolina Irish Festival at the last minute, but I think I just need a little more turnaround time to make that work, and it's a long way away. So appreciate the invitation, but I probably won't be able to make it, and it's getting late now, so we'll have to see about that. Number 4, I've started the irishcentral.com Irish Roots Cafe blog, and like I said, I'm not exactly sure of all the details I'm going to do with it, but it's going to be coordinated with our show notes here. And I've got a link to that on our blog, and boy, they've got all kinds of news there at Irish Central, so be sure to check them out. And number 5, it's that time of year. We've moved the old Irish history and genealogy podcast shows over to the archive area. That's where our members can see them, and they're free to members still. And we're also going to make some of the archived shows available to non-members for a small fee. You might say a pittance. And I'm not exactly sure how you even spell pittance, but we're going to try that just to see if we can keep things rolling here because you know the story. We got to pay the bills. Hey, the books this month, what they going to be? County Donegal, Ireland Genealogy and Family History Notes for one, and The Families of County Donegal, Ireland is the second. And those two are both from my 34-book set on Irish families and Irish family history, the Irish Families Project. And we've got more information on both of those on the webpage and a link to both of them, too. So if you're looking in Donegal, those will be of interest. Now let's move on to the special entry for today, how to trace your Irish ancestor. And this is part 1 of what I think will be a 10-part series, so we'll see how it goes and where your questions lead me because there's no point in writing things that folks don't want to hear. I'll just have to hear from you. Be sure to let me know. Now, you know, we're going to be covering some of the topics that also that my 3 podcast series put out that bear on Irish roots beyond just genealogy. And that includes a little bit about song, recitation, and history of the Irish in America. And I just hope that my tips and the interviews we have will help a few of you along the way as we go. You know, coming back from that Dublin festival, it's now billed as the second largest Irish festival in the world. But who's counting? And hey, we're ready to go. Now, as I take a look at Irish festivals, you know, it was a long time ago when I went to my first, what you might call a small Irish festival. It was after the big parade in Kansas City back in the 1980s. And, you know, that was a long time ago. I've been consulting at the Dublin, Ohio festival now for 11 years, and I've learned a few things in the process. So let's just pretend you didn't know a thing and you were just walking around that festival. And you know what you might see? You might see the family name scrolls that were being sold there. And you were curious, and you took a glance at it, and you wouldn't be mind being connected to the kings of Ireland now, would you? And, of course, as superficial as this might appear to more serious family researchers down the road, it's a point at which the curious may just begin to get the seed of the journey to find the kings from which they may descend, or the paupers from which they may descend. It all depends on how you look at it. Now, when you see that little scroll there at the festival, it's curious and it's nice, but you have to think, well, where did they get this information and how can you prove that it's true, or is it all just a bunch of blarney? And you got to remember a few things. Find out where that information on your family name came. That's the source. And then remember that just because a family name and information is printed on a sheet of paper, it does not mean that it's about your family at all. It could be about a family with the same name as yours, but they have absolutely no relationship to you, even if they're also from Ireland. And also remember that your name may have been spelled quite a bit differently than it is today. And many names are grouped together today as a form of guesswork in these family scrolls, so you got to be aware of that. And, you know, come to think of it, your name just might have originally been written in the Irish language and translated into English. So take in all that information, but take it in with a grain of salt for good measure. We'll always talk a little bit about that, so keep your ears open. Now, my last little mention here is if you're just starting out, I've got to get on my soapbox just a little. We're talking about Irish tartans, which Irish family tartan designs, which really never existed in history. And people, if they study it, they say, oh, that's true. But there were Irish county tartans. Well, they never existed in history either. We're talking back before the 20th century. A lot of folks have come out with books or come out with some schemes to sell some tartans to make some money to keep the people employed, which is a good thing. But you should always be aware of the truth of the matter and not think you're wearing an ancient historic tartan of your family when they'd be looking at you 200 years ago and thinking, what in the world is that Irishman doing? You know what? There's been, like I said, a lot of commercial endeavors to sell a lot of tartan cloth, and that was in cooperation with the Irish government even at times, so that's fine. But just look for the truth at all the time. I've written several blogs at irishroots.com on that, so you can get some more information if you want it. And, a lot of things are misquoted. One person makes a statement, and people follow it up, and some of the sources that they say contained Irish tartans never contained them at all. So keep your eyes open. Hey, but remember, tartans are just fine by me. Wear a tartan if it suits your fancy, and I just may get myself a plaid one day too, but I get to pick out my own. I don't have to look in some modern-day book to tell me what my plaid was when it really wasn't. Hey, but remember, it's also a proud Scottish tradition, and a serious student of Irish history will realize that upon reflection. Well, as always, I welcome your thoughts, and I told you I just got that call about appearing at the Charlotte, North Carolina Irish Festival at the end of the week, so the story continues, and boy, I wondered if they'd have my family plaid there. Oh, wait a minute, that's not what I'm supposed to do, is it? Hey, but anyway, send your comments and remarks in. I'm always glad to hear them. I've also been trying with this experimental blog reader where you can just press that button in the blog at irishroots.com and have the blog read to you by, I guess it's by a computer voice. But remember, we also have the regular podcast, and if you're not hearing a human voice in perfect melodic tones, then you're probably listening to the blog reader. Just experimenting with all the new stuff out there, folks. It's really interesting. Hey, you know what's coming up later? We're going to talk about Donkey Day and fancy dress competition for the same in Ireland. That's a new one for me. But now you know what time it is. It's time to raise our eyes skyward, give thanks, and ask for help. Here are today's Magnificent Seven. Number 1, Amy Favre of Cincinnati, Ohio. Welcome as a renewing member. I am searching for Duffys from Carrigart, Donegal, and McNulty's probably from Derry, she says. And Edward Duffy and Mary McNulty both came to Philadelphia, PA in the early 1900s. Hey, and Amy, you know what? It was good to see you at the festival. I'm glad you said hello. Number 2, Teresa McAlpin of Cumming, Georgia. Your Kings and Queens County Genealogy Notes has shipped. Number 3, Hannah Lee Mahon of Twin Falls, Idaho. Welcome as a gold member. And she's searching for great-grandfather William Henry Mahon and great-great-grandfather Benjamin F. Mahon. And number 4, Hugh Watson of Tacoma, Washington. Welcome as a member. Warburton family name. That was his grandmother's, and looking for that. And they say it's been traced back to Richard Warburton of Gary Hinch in the Kings County. Well, in the next week or two, we'll take a look at that surname, give it a little more emphasis as we go along, especially since you're a member. Hey, number 5, David Fitzmaurice of Tucson, Arizona. Your County Kerry Genealogy and Family History Notes have shipped. Number 6, Dolores Hanson of Columbus, Ohio. Your County Tipperary Genealogy and Family History Notes shipped. And James Duvall of Worthington, Ohio. Your County Cork Genealogy and Family History Notes have shipped. We got a lot of county books there moved out there at the festival in Ohio this year that I didn't take the names down. I should have. I could have made everybody famous. But then again, maybe they didn't want to be famous. So I think we'll just leave it as it is. Hey, and that reminds me, thanks to all of our members and thanks to everybody who picks up a book and pays for it. And without you, these podcasts would not be possible. So I sure do encourage you to help us out and keep us going, because it's a battle and it's a lot of fun, and I don't want to give it up. Hey, coming up next, the Irish family of the day. Well, today's family name is Duffy, and that's in honor of the member we mentioned earlier. That's Amy. And let's take a look. Boy, you know, just like all these names, there's related spellings of the name. You can find Duffy as O'Duffy and McDuffy and Dewey and Dowie and Duffy and Duffy, D-U-F-F-I-E or D-U-F-F-E-Y. There's all kinds of ways to do it, and I think you're familiar with it by now. And it's in several variant spelling groups, number 519, 521, 1656, and 2272. And those groups are taken from the Master Guide to the Various Spellings of Irish Family Names. Link on the blog. The history of the name? Well, let's take a quick look. You know, Duffy is taken from, of course, the Gaelic spelling, which, of course, has a lot more letters in it if you take a look. And the root word is D-U-B-H, or duv, and that means black or dark. And the name ranks as one of the top 50 most numerous names in Ireland. And you know what? It's also among the top 700 most popular names in America. Now, there's at least two noted families of the name, and both look like they come from the province of Leinster. And the noted locations for the family includes the parish of Lower Templecrone in the Diocese of Raphoe, County Donegal, and also in Donegal in the barony of Boyla on the west coast. Now, note the location of Lissy Duffy in Roscommon. That's a place name, and that's in Roscommon Barony by Strokestown. And you can also find the family in County Monaghan and in County Mayo. And you know what? You'll find that a different name, the name of O'Diff, has been changed to Duffy just because Duffy was more common. So you're going to find some O'Diffs that have become Duffy. Boy, DNA would sure make that clear if it was or wasn't. There's a lot more on Duffy in the Book of Irish Families, Great and Small, but that's enough to get us started. We're going to take a quick look now at the Irish family coats of arms. I wonder, hey, you know what? Duffy is found in the Irish Book of Arms in Part 1 with their arms illustrated and drawn out, so that's always good to know. Hey, coming up later in this episode, we're going to take a look at our video pick, and that's Duffy's Irish Circus in Irish history. It's an interesting story. It's not just a circus. There's a lot more to it. It does chronicle a lot of Irish history there, too. And one more look, the free master index search of Irish names at irishroots.com finds the family name there, I don't know, was it 80 times? It was a bunch. I'll just take 7 of them. Here's 7 sources. Let me see. The Annals of the Four Masters has Duffy in there a whole lot. The Annals of Ireland by the Four Masters. And they list Duffy of Cong, Duffy of Mayo, Duffy of Tuam. Hey, number 2, Surnames of Ireland with 200 family location maps. They have Duffy in the index. And our genealogy notes books are small spiral-bound county books. Monaghan, Meath, Westmeath, several more counties have them. So does County Donegal, the county that we happen to be looking at today. They've got them in there, too. Now, Missouri Irish, that's the Irish book that I wrote on the original history of the Irish in Missouri. Just updated it last year. First one ever written. Of course, they had some Duffys in there. And Families of County Donegal, Ireland, that's our second book that I wrote on the County Donegal families. It's hardbound. They're in that book, too. And number 7, we'll just take it. Milesian Families of Ireland has the family documented there, too. So there's several quick ones. Well, now it's time we move on to the websites of the week. Well, let's take a look at several websites today. We'll pick out 3. Number 1, there's a Flax Growers Bounty List, 1796 for County Donegal. And yes, it does include a few Duffy or Duffys too, but it includes a lot of other names, so you might want to check that out. You can find that link on the blog. It's at ulsterancestry.com, and a bunch of other words right after that, so the blog might be easier. Number 2, Duffy's Irish Circus. That's a movie trailer, sort of, for the Duffy's Irish Circus. And it's a really unique view at the traditions and the power of the family, as they put it in their video. And it makes its way into every tiny village and foggy bog, they say. And they say that circus is a remarkable relic of, I think it would be, the past. And some of us are the same, aren't we? Hey, number 3. The Hills of Donegal video. There's another pick, and that song was written by Sean. The song that they use to describe the video while you're looking at the pictures is written by Sean McBride, they say, in 1955 or so, and he was a native of Cruit Island, which is in the Rosses area of Donegal, which is West Donegal. Very interesting. Both those videos, those last two, are on YouTube, and I've also got a link on the blog that you can pick them up from, so that'll give you something to do if you're curious and want to improve your intellectual abilities, huh? Hey, now we're going to move on to everybody's favorite, the last part of the day, and that's Curious News and Notes. Well, looks like today we're going to focus on some festivals, aren't we? Arts and whatnot. Let's see. Number 1, 10 Days of the Kilkenny Art Festival. Now, that started on August the 7th, and it's still running today. And it says they're going to change the way you think, and it's music to get you up dancing and performances to break your heart. And there's nothing like an Irishman breaking your heart now, there isn't it? We've got a link to the article about that festival on the blog, and we got it from irishtimes.com. Number 2, this was an interesting little thing I didn't understand at first. Donkey Day, and that happened Saturday, and it was put together courtesy of the Ulster Folk and Transport Museum in Hollywood up there in Northern Ireland, and they have fancy cheering on a donkey, taking part in a fancy dress competition, and they got things like winning an egg race and a spoon race. Oh, an egg and spoon race. I guess it'd be pretty hard to race a spoon, wouldn't it? I don't think they'd float very well. But anyway, they also play musical chairs, or they've got some obstacle courses up there. So that sounds like a fun event. I just thought I'd mention it and follow that up. Maybe go over there for that next year. That'd be interesting. Number 3, 1916, the musical. Well, they're having auditions for that now, and it's scheduled to actually become a real show at the Dublin's Gaiety Theatre in 2011. Gosh, it hadn't even been 100 years yet, and they're making a musical out of, really out of the Easter Rising, I guess, and I don't know what to think about that, as long as it's done in good taste, but that's still a memory that's close in a lot of people's minds, so you've got to respect that. Number 4, a goat from County Antrim will serve as King Puck in the County Kerry Puck Fair this year, and we all know about the Puck Fair. Seamus Blaney captured the King Puck goat at Ballycastle up north, and you know what? Old Seamus thinks that goat is a descendant of an earlier goat that was originally brought from County Kerry and left there to sort of grow up in the wild. So they're just sort of replenishing each other's stock, I guess. Number 5, Colleen Kelly visited County Roscommon recently. Now, you might know who Colleen Kelly's family is. She's the niece of the famous actor and dancer Gene Kelly. That had been the fella that did Dancing in the Rain. He did pretty good. If I was ever to become a dancer, I'd like to dance in the rain like that, use the trash cans and all those nice innovative things. But her purpose for the trip when she broke off to County Roscommon was to promote the continued twinning between her hometown of Tucson, Arizona, and Roscommon City, I guess it was, in County Roscommon. So there's a lot of twinning of cities going on, and that's a neat thing. So 3 cheers for Colleen and all you other folks out there who are thinking about putting together a Sister Cities program. Just remember old Ireland. Number 6, Weekend Jive in Monaghan. What in the world is that? Well, they say it's the Flat Lake Literary and Arts Festival, August 14, 15, and 16 this year, so it's coming right up. And it's at Hilton Park in Clones, County Monaghan. And they say it's a righteous weekend jive for arty heads, moochers, bee-girls, gassers, band rats, grifters, shifters, snowbirds, hepcats, heels, and grog hands, and long-gone daddies. I'm not sure what all that is about, but it sounds like fun. I think I'd at least be a long-gone daddy or a band rat, don't you think? I don't know, or maybe I'd be a hepcat. That'd have been about 50 years ago you'd be a hepcat, wouldn't it? But it sure sounds like fun. I've got a link on the blog. That wraps it up there for today. We've had a lot of fun here these last 2 weeks, and we're going to keep it coming on to you. And remember that you should check out oldirishcentral.com, too. They've got all kinds of news. And remember to send your comments by clicking the contact link on our webpage at irishroots.com or send by mail to our American address at the Irish Roots Cafe, Box 7575, Kansas City, Missouri, 64116. Leave your message or report on things in your part of the world when you call my phone recorder at 816-256-3360. And remember, I'm on Skype and MySpace and Facebook, and Twitter and Irish Central, and I tell you what, it's easy to get a hold of me if you're on any of those, and I've got links on the blog to all of those ways of contacting me. And remember, members foot the bill so they get first priority, but we're open to all. And by the way, a big thank you to all of our members. And away.